All right, so we're getting set up to make our whey caramel. We're gonna start off by just putting the whey that we drained off of our Gouda cheese earlier today. Now keep in mind, this particular whey is still full of the whey protein that will produce ricotta cheese. So first and foremost, when you're making whey caramel, you need to make your ricotta cheese so that you get all of that chunky cheese out of your caramel sauce so that it ends up very smooth. So we have just a little over 1.5 gallons of really nice, fresh, sweet whey. Because this is sweet whey, we're going to actually add some citric acid to it. The citric acid will help with the ricotta rising to the top. And then ultimately, when we make our caramel sauce, it's going to prevent the sugar from crystallizing. So for this 1.5 gallons of sweet whey, we're going to add 2 teaspoons of citric acid. This is a 1/2 teaspoon. No, I take that back. That's 1 teaspoon, so we're going to do 2 of these. And then we're going to start heating this. And stirring very, we're going to stir in our citric acid, but then we're going to let it come up to about 180 degrees and then hold it there for about 10-15 minutes, and all of the ricotta is going to rise to the top. We're going to scoop that off. We're going to strain out the rest of our whey because there's still some ricotta that will sink to the bottom, and you don't want that in your caramel sauce. So we're just mixing our citric acid. Now we're going to let this come up to 180 degrees, and we're not going to agitate it any during that temperature rise. So the ingredients for whey caramel are very simple. We've got vanilla, and I've used 1/2 and 1/2 of imitation vanilla and homemade vanilla out of vanilla beans and vodka. You'll need your citric acid, you'll need sugar, and you're going to need some sea salt. And that's pretty much it. Then you're just going to need some patience while it cooks down. Alright, we've got our whey up to about 180 degrees. So I'm just going to reduce the temperature and hold it here at this temp for about 10 to 15 minutes so all of the ricotta comes to the top. And then we're going to scoop that off. Alright, so what I have here to collect my ricotta is a mesh strainer, and I've lined it with a cheesecloth that's sterilized. I have it sitting in a colander with a bowl to catch any of the whey that drains out. I'm going to go ahead and take my thermometer out. And I use a very fine mesh scoop to get the ricotta off the very top of our whey. gently scooping the ricotta off the top. All of the whey that drains off of this ricotta will go back into our pot for making the caramel sauce. The ricotta that rises to the top is your high quality ricotta. There will still be some ricotta suspended throughout the whey lower down in the pot. We're going to strain that out as well. It is a lower quality ricotta than this smooth ricotta that rises to the top. That's about it. Okay, so this is our high quality ricotta. We're just going to let this continue to drain. We will probably reduce down to only about a cup, which is perfect for the ricotta cream cake that I would like to make for Thanksgiving. We're just going to set this aside. Any whey that does drain out of this, we're going to put back into our pot. And what we're going to do here is heat this up to a boil. Now when we heat this up to a boil, the remainder of that lower quality ricotta that did not rise to the top is going to go ahead and coagulate and turn into little chunky bits in this whey. And that's what we want to happen so that we can get it strained out. Right now it's kind of thin and it would take a long time to try to strain it. So we want this to separate out from our whey. And it is important to stir pretty frequently during this time frame because you do not want any of those milk solids to scorch down in the bottom of your pot. Alright, we're going to go ahead and add our sugar to this now. You're going to add 1 cup of sugar for every quart of whey that you're using. So we have a total of about 7 quarts of whey. We've removed a little bit of ricotta, and we're going to remove a little bit more of the cheese in there. So we're going to adjust this for about 6 quarts of whey. This is a half measuring cup. One cup, 2 cups, that's 2 cups, 3 cups, 4 cups, 5 cups, 6 cups. And now we're just going to slowly simmer this until we start seeing a lot of the whey protein kind of form little coagulated chunks of cheese in this sauce. At that point, we will strain it up. So for now, this is just a slow process of reducing this down and wait until we get to the right point to strain this. Straining this is imperative to having a nice, silky, smooth caramel sauce. You do not want to just cook this down without taking your ricotta out and straining off any residual whey cheese that's still in there. Alright, we're going to go ahead and add our salt to this. I'm going to put a teaspoon of sea salt. So always make sure you have a much bigger pot than what you think you need. As this boils with that amount of sugar in it, it is going to bubble up substantially. Sometimes it'll double in size while you're boiling it, so just make sure you have a pot that can adequately accommodate that boiling up. So we're getting to a point where we can start to see some of the cheese bits in this. It's not as much as what you would see if you had not taken the ricotta off, but you can see there some little pieces of cheese. You do not want that to end up in your caramel sauce. It will make your caramel sauce lumpy. Nobody wants lumpy caramel sauce. Everybody wants smooth caramel sauce. So we're just going to continue to boil this for probably another 10 minutes so that all of the whey protein that's left in this turns into cheese and we can skim it off. Well, not skim it off, but strain it off. What I typically use is the milk filters that I filter fresh milk through. And I'll just set up right here. We'll filter it into a jug through that filter. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get this strained up. It's pretty hot right now, just be very careful. So we got all of our whey strained up and back into the pot. I've added our vanilla. So now we have the citric acid, the salt, and the sugar in this. And the only thing it needs to do is cook down slowly over the next couple of hours until it turns into a thick, smooth caramel sauce. All right, we are getting very close to our caramel sauce being done. It's very foamy right now. All of that sugar and whey is caramelizing. Now, the way to determine that your sauce is the consistency that you're going to want it to be is kind of like when you're making jelly and you watch the sauce drip off of your spoon. Right now we're still a little bit runny. It's called flaking off the spoon. So you just have to stay on top of it when it reaches this point. It's definitely thickened, but still kind of drippy. We are getting to the point where it's dripping slowly off the spoon as it cools a little bit. It's not quite there. Probably just a few more minutes of rapid boiling. And keep in mind, we're making caramel sauce. We don't want this to turn hard into actual caramel. This will continue to thicken as it cools. And then once it's refrigerated after you've opened it, it will thicken even more. We're almost, very, very close. Getting very, very close. That's kind of where we want it, right like that. It's no longer dripping off in a stream, it's coming off in what we would call flakes, sticky flakes. I'm going to turn this down really low. And we're going to get out our prepared jars. These jars were just washed. And then we place them in an oven at 200 degrees for about 15 minutes so that they're sterilized. I'll start with my largest jars. I do have a canning funnel. Just going to take a ladle. Be very careful with this because it's super hot, and it is important that your jars are hot because this is very hot caramel sauce going into these jars. More shatter. You do want to have your jars on a towel, also to prevent shattering them. I am keeping my caramel sauce at a little low boil because I want it to go in super hot so that these jars will seal. And I'm going to leave about a ½ inch head space at the top. right here with a little vinegar on it, just to wipe my round. And then I have some warmed sterilized lids. Right. right, so we're just going to continue filling these jars, and I'll be back to show you the final product. All right, these are all of our caramel sauce jars. So we're just going to leave these undisturbed for 24 hours. They should seal based on the boiling caramel sauce being placed in hot jars with hot lids. If any of them don't seal, you just need to go ahead and put them in the fridge and use them within a few weeks. These make excellent Christmas gifts, stocking stuffers, so that's what we plan on using these for. All right, finally, I wanted to show you the final product of our caramel sauce. This has sat, and I've actually put this in the refrigerator to let it thicken a little bit. We're gonna go ahead and open it up. As you can see, it's a nice thick sauce. Very creamy. And I did want to point out on the video that we did today, the sauce that we made, when we filtered it, we actually did not filter it through the milk filters. We just filtered it through a fine mesh strainer. Filtering it through the milk filters takes a little bit longer, and I opted just to go with just the mesh strainer. So there were still some milk particles left in this, but even with filtering out any of that little chunky bits of whey cheese that was left in there, we're left with a really smooth, nice, thick caramel sauce. In contrast, if we had been super patient and let our whey filter through that milk filter, we would have ended up with more of a clarified caramel sauce like this. So they both have their pluses and minuses. This is a little bit thicker. It was probably cooked just a little bit longer. This is one of the last jars that we jarred up, so it's nice and thick. This caramel sauce here, as you can see, is a much thinner, clarified sauce. So this is super in coffee or over ice cream. Either of them are good in ice cream, but this thinner, clarified sauce is really good to put in with your coffee. But this thicker, creamier sauce here, where we did not filter it through the milk filter and just used our fine mesh strainer, it's a little bit thicker, it's a little bit creamier, and it's probably more ideal for ice cream. Both are good products, and you can make the caramel sauce either way. Again, this one here was done through the fine mesh strainers. This one here was filtered through an actual milk filter. So we got a clarified sauce. And those are our final products, both super good. I'll post the recipe at the very end of this video so that you have all of the details on making the sauce.